A lost city waits beneath your feet, hidden for centuries. These awe-inspiring temples, abandoned to jungle and sea, were all rediscovered by pure chance. This journey through 24 miraculous finds reveals how sacred spaces vanished and then dramatically returned to our world. You will discover the full stories behind these accidental recoveries, from a mountain sanctuary revealed by a local boy to a sunken city detected on a routine sonar scan. Why would entire civilizations abandon their most holy sites? How could structures of such immense scale simply disappear from human memory? When you hear about a place of worship lost for 1,000 years, what does it make you wonder about our own legacy? Stone towers clawed at the humid air, their silhouettes a ghostly army against the jungle canopy. The French naturalist Henri Mauhot stood frozen, his machete hanging limp at his side. He had not been searching for a city, he was collecting insects. Yet in 1860, his accidental path through the Cambodian jungle brought him face to face with the impossible. This was Angkor Wat, the world's largest religious monument, silently sleeping beneath a blanket of roots for centuries. Its 5 iconic towers were conceived as a stone replica of Mount Meru, the mythical axis of the universe in both Hindu and Buddhist belief. Originally dedicated to the god Vishnu, the temple complex gradually transformed into a Buddhist site, its very stones absorbing the spiritual shifts of an empire. As expert archaeologist Charles Hyam notes, Angkor represents the pinnacle of Khmer architectural genius, its scale unmatched in the ancient world. Walk its galleries and you are surrounded by a story in stone. Bas-reliefs stretch for hundreds of meters, depicting epic Hindu tales and the vast military processions of a king. Its builders possessed a knowledge that feels almost supernatural. The entire temple is precisely aligned so that on the spring equinox, the sun rises directly over its central tower, a celestial event engineered into its foundation. The discovery rewrote our understanding of Southeast Asia, revealing the Khmer Empire's breathtaking sophistication. Yet this undeniable grandeur only deepens the central mystery. How does a civilization capable of such a masterpiece simply walk away, allowing the jungle to reclaim its heart? The silence of Angkor asks a question that echoes far beyond its walls, one we find whispered again in the highlands of another continent. High in the Andes, a local boy led American historian Hiram Bingham up a treacherous, vegetation-choked mountainside in 1911. What they found above the clouds defied belief. Machu Picchu, the legendary lost city of the Incas, emerged from the mist, its terraced stone structures clinging to the ridge like a mirage. This sky sanctuary had remained completely hidden from the outside world for roughly 400 years, untouched by the Spanish conquest that swept through the continent below. Built around 1450, it is believed to have been a royal estate for the Inca Emperor Pachacuti, or a sacred religious retreat. At its heart stands the Intihuatana stone, an intricately carved granite pillar whose name translates to the hitching post of the sun. This was no simple monument. It functioned as a sophisticated astronomical clock, its angles precisely aligned with the sun's position during the solstices, anchoring the celestial body in its journey across the sky. As historian Johann Reinhard has emphasized, Machu Picchu's location was not chosen for scenery alone. It is cradled by sacred mountains, and its entire layout is a deliberate alignment with powerful natural and cosmic forces. The exquisite stonework of the Temple of the Sun showcases this genius, with windows perfectly positioned to capture the first rays of the sunrise on the winter solstice. Even its agricultural terraces were a marvel of engineering, designed with deep gravel layers for drainage to prevent erosion on the steep slopes. Because the Spanish never found it, Machu Picchu offers a pristine window into Incan culture, frozen in time. Its silent, cloud-wreathed courtyards make you wonder how many other mountain sanctuaries, built by cultures who revered the peaks, still remain secret, waiting for a chance encounter. Yet sometimes the most profound secrets are not hidden in the heights, but submerged in the silent, dark world beneath the waves. The sea holds its secrets close. Off the coast of modern India, in the Gulf of Cambay, a team of marine archaeologists made a routine survey in the year 2000. Their sonar equipment, designed to map the seabed, suddenly painted a startling picture. Deep below the waves lay the distinct geometric shapes of a sunken city. This was not a random ruin. They had found Dwarka, the legendary capital of Lord Krishna, a city spoken of in sacred Hindu texts like the Mahabharata for thousands of years. The epic poem describes a city so magnificent it was said to be built by the divine architect Vishwakarma, with gates of silver and palaces of gold, but its glory was fleeting. The ancient story tells that after Krishna departed from the world, Dwarka was consumed by the ocean, vanishing beneath the waves as if it had never been. For centuries, this was considered a beautiful myth, a symbolic tale. The discovery on the seafloor transformed that legend into tangible history. Leading marine archaeologist S.R. Rao dedicated his career to this site, stating that the underwater structures reveal evidence of advanced town planning, pointing to a prosperous and powerful port city. The excavations brought up proof: massive stone anchors used by ancient trading ships, perfectly preserved pottery, and the clear foundations of fortifications and buildings were recovered from the depths. Carbon dating of these artifacts yielded a result that sent shockwaves through the historical community. They suggested the city could be up to 9,000 years old, a timeline that challenges everything we thought we knew about the dawn of Indian civilization. Here was a sophisticated maritime culture with a temple complex dedicated to Krishna, thriving at a time when most of the world was still in the Stone Age. The submerged stones of Dwarka force us to ask a profound question. How many of our oldest stories are not mere fables, but faded memories of real events, waiting for a chance discovery to bring them back to light? Just as one city was reclaimed by the sea, another would be miraculously rescued from it. Sometimes the ocean gives back what it took. In 2004, the devastating Indian Ocean tsunami pulled a colossal volume of water away from the coast of Tamil Nadu, India. As the sea retreated, it scraped away centuries of sand and sediment, and for a brief, startling moment, it revealed a secret. There, along the shore near the famous shore temple of Mahabalapuram, lay the exposed forms of stone lions, elegantly carved elephants, and the foundational remains of ancient shrines. The legend was true. For generations, local fishermen had spoken of the 7 pagodas, a group of magnificent temples that once stood along this coast. The story told that 6 of these grand structures had been consumed by the sea in a single angry night, leaving only the shore temples standing as a solitary sentinel. The tsunami's terrible power had, in a tragic twist, provided the proof. Archaeologist Dr. Alok Tripathi confirmed that the event validated these oral histories, suddenly opening up entirely new archaeological sites for exploration. These were not random rocks. The exposed structures were part of the same magnificent complex, built in the 7th and 8th centuries during the reign of the Pallava dynasty. They represent the very dawn of Dravidian temple architecture, a style characterized by its intricate pyramid-shaped towers known as vimanas and its walls covered in breathtakingly detailed panels. These carvings are a stone encyclopedia of Hindu mythology, depicting gods like Vishnu, Shiva, and the goddess Durga in dynamic scenes of cosmic power. The lion sculptures, a symbol of Pallava royalty, and the patient, powerful elephant figures speak of a culture that blended art, nature, and devotion into a single, unified expression. This accidental rediscovery did more than just confirm a folktale. It dramatically expanded our understanding of the Pallava kingdom as a major maritime power. These temples were not just spiritual centers, they were landmarks for ancient traders, announcing a rich and sophisticated civilization to every ship that approached the coast. The waves revealed that the shore temple was never meant to stand alone. It was merely the one survivor of a much grander, sprawling sacred landscape, most of which now lies beneath the waves. It forces us to consider what other coastal secrets, hidden by shifting sands and rising seas, might be lying in wait for the right moment to be seen again. Yet not all temples are lost to water. Some are buried deliberately, hidden in plain sight under the very earth we walk upon. A Portuguese priest traveling through the highlands of Ethiopia in the 16th century stumbled upon a sight that must have seemed like a divine revelation. 11 breathtaking churches, each one carved not upward from the ground, but downward into the very heart of the volcanic rock. This was Lalibela, an underground kingdom of faith that had remained a secret to the wider world for centuries. Its creation was a direct response to history's upheavals. In the 12th and 13th centuries, after Muslim conquests had made the pilgrimage to Jerusalem perilously difficult, King Lalibela commissioned a new holy city right there in the Ethiopian highlands. He sought to build a new Jerusalem, a spiritual duplicate where pilgrims could worship in safety. As architectural historian David Phillipson notes, Lalibela stands as one of humanity's most extraordinary architectural achievements. Each church was monolithically carved from a single, massive block of rock. The builders began by cutting a deep trench around a huge volume of stone, then painstakingly hollowed out the interior, creating doors, windows, columns, and roofs all from that one solid piece. The most iconic of these is the Church of St. George, a perfect cross shape that plunges 40 feet into the earth. Its roof sits level with the ground, so you only see its magnificent form as you descend into the courtyard. But the genius does not stop with the buildings themselves. A complex labyrinth of tunnels connects the churches, along with sophisticated drainage systems that channel water away, protecting the structures from the region's heavy rains. For 800 years, these subterranean sanctuaries have remained in continuous use as active places of Christian worship. The rituals and hymns heard within their stone walls today are the same ones that echoed there when they were first consecrated. How did medieval builders without modern tools or blueprints achieve such staggering precision and vision? They worked with an unwavering faith, literally moving mountains to bring their spiritual world to life. This incredible feat of carving a temple from living rock finds a strange and beautiful parallel on a distant island in the Aegean Sea. The narrow sandstone canyon walls seem to press in, blocking out the harsh desert sun. In 1812, the Swiss explorer Johann Ludwig Burckhardt, disguised as an Arab scholar named Ibrahim ibn Abdullah, followed his Bedouin guides through this shadowy slit in the rock. He had heard whispers of a lost city, and he played his part perfectly, requesting to make a sacrifice at the tomb of the prophet Aaron. His guides led him through the winding, mile-long passage known as the Sikh, and then, as the path ended, the world opened up. There, glowing in a shaft of sunlight, was an enormous, breathtaking facade carved directly into the rose-red cliff face. This was the Treasury of Petra, a monument lost to Western knowledge for 600 years. The Nabatean capital was not merely a city of tombs, but a brilliant, thriving hub of commerce and culture, built around the 1st century before the Common Era. Its strategic position along the Incense Road made it the central nexus for trade between Arabia, Egypt, and the Mediterranean world. Frankincense, myrrh, and spices flowed through its gates, generating immense wealth. As archaeologist Dr. Lucy Wadeson explains, Petra's architecture is a stunning fusion of Nabatean, Greek, Egyptian, and Assyrian influences, a stone testament to its cosmopolitan nature. The Treasury's elaborate facade, likely a royal tomb, showcases this global conversation. Its columns are classically Greek, its statues echo Egyptian deities, and its crowning urn-shaped carving is a mystery, perhaps a symbol of royalty or a target for treasure hunters who left it pockmarked with bullet holes. The true genius of the Nabateans, however, lies not just in what they carved, but in how they survived. They engineered one of the ancient world's most sophisticated water management systems, carving channels into the canyon walls and constructing dams and cisterns to capture every precious drop of seasonal rain, transforming a desert gorge into a lush, defensible capital. Walking through the Sikh, you can still see the grooves and ceramic pipes that made this possible. What kind of cultural exchanges happened in such a vibrant crossroads? How many languages were spoken in its markets, and how many beliefs blended together under that relentless sun? The desert city of Petra, a marvel of human adaptation, reminds us that the most enduring legacies are often born from connection. And just as this stone city was reclaimed by the desert sands, another would be swallowed by the dense, living blanket of the Central American jungle. Deep within the Guatemalan rainforest, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and sap, a group of gum collectors moved through the shadows. Their search was for chicle trees, the source of chewing gum, not for lost cities. But in the mid-19th century, their path was abruptly blocked by a sight that defied the jungle itself. Stone pyramids, colossal and silent, emerged from the green canopy, their summits scratching the sky. They had stumbled upon Tikal, one of the most powerful cities of the ancient Maya world, abandoned for over 1,000 years before this accidental encounter. At its peak between the years 200 and 900 of the Common Era, Tikal was a sprawling metropolis, a nexus of power, trade, and spiritual life. Its towering temples were far more than just monuments. They functioned as sacred ceremonial centers where kings communed with the gods, and as sophisticated astronomical observatories, their alignments tracking the precise movements of the sun, moon, and planets. As leading Mayanist scholar Simon Martin has emphasized, Tikal's Temple IV, soaring to 230 feet, still holds the title of the tallest pre-Columbian structure ever built in the Americas. Stand in the Great Plaza, and you are flanked by this architectural dialogue between the living and the divine. Temple I, known as the Temple of the Great Jaguar, rises steeply on one side, its 9 tiers representing the 9 levels of the underworld. It directly faces Temple II, the Temple of the Masks, named for the giant stone masks of deities that adorn its summit. This precise alignment was not random. These structures were positioned to capture specific celestial events, their shadows and sightlines marking sacred dates on the cosmic calendar, while also serving as the final resting places for powerful rulers. The story of Tikal is literally carved in stone. Scattered throughout the city center are stelae, tall, freestanding stone slabs and altars, all covered in intricate hieroglyphic inscriptions. These are not abstract art. They are historical records documenting the rise and fall of dynasties, recording military victories, and preserving the Mayas' profound astronomical knowledge, including their complex and accurate calendar systems. To walk among these ruins is to feel the weight of a vibrant, intelligent civilization, which makes its complete collapse by the 10th century one of history's most enduring puzzles. How could a society capable of such urban planning, such scientific precision, and such artistic grandeur simply dissolve, allowing the jungle to swallow its heart? The silence of Tikal's empty plazas asks a question that resonates across the Americas, a mystery that finds a strange echo not in another jungle, but in the stark, high desert of the American Southwest. A Peruvian judge named Juan Crisostomo Nieto was on a routine journey through the Amazonas region in 1843 when local farmers guided him to something impossible. Massive stone walls, slick with mist and shrouded in moss, emerged from the cloud forest. This was Kuelap, a colossal fortress city that had remained a secret to the outside world for centuries. Often called the Machu Picchu of the north, this awe-inspiring site was built by the Chachapoya culture around the year 600 of the Common Era. Its scale is almost unbelievable. The exterior fortification walls soar to 60 feet in height, encircling the entire mountain ridge and containing the remains of over 400 circular stone buildings. As archaeologist Dr. Warren Church has highlighted, Kuelap fundamentally challenges our old assumptions about Amazonian cultures, revealing a society capable of sophisticated urban planning in one of the most challenging environments on Earth, the perpetually damp cloud forest. Within this stone citadel lies the Temple of the Sun, a key structure whose design is precisely aligned with the sun's position during the solstices. The walls are further adorned with intricate friezes, carved with mysterious geometric patterns and stylized human faces that seem to watch from the stone. Because of its incredibly remote location and the thick, enveloping vegetation, Kuelap was never found by Spanish conquistadors, allowing it to remain a pristine time capsule of the Chachapoya people. Who were these cloud warriors who built their empire in the sky? Their isolated fortress stands as a powerful reminder of the unique, complex cultures that developed in South America's diverse and demanding ecosystems, completely independent of the well-known Incan Empire to the south. This highland fortress, lost in the clouds, makes you wonder what other mountain kingdoms were built in secrecy, their stories still waiting to be found. A brilliant white platform gleamed under the Mesopotamian sun, a ghost from the very dawn of cities. In 1912, German archaeologist Julius Jordan excavated a massive mound in Iraq, carefully brushing away millennia of dust to reveal the White Temple of Uruk. This structure, dedicated to Anu, the sky god, was built around 4,000 years before the Common Era. It stands as one of humanity's very first attempts to build a monumental space for the divine. The temple itself was perched atop an artificial platform 40 feet high, a man-made mountain that dominated the flat plain, a clear statement of both religious ambition and newfound social organization. As archaeologist Dr. Guillermo Alguez explains, Uruk's temples were not just spiritual centers. They were economic engines that drove the development of writing and administration. The entire community would have been mobilized to build this sacred high place, an effort that required leaders, planners, and record keepers. The construction itself showcased a stunning technical innovation. The builders used thousands of ceramic cones, each one fired and then pressed into the wet clay walls to form decorative patterns of red, black, and yellow. This mosaic-like surface was not merely for beauty. It acted as a waterproof shield, protecting the mud-brick core from the rare but destructive desert rains. This simple yet brilliant solution preserved the structure for centuries. The temple's influence extended far beyond its walls. In the administrative buildings nearby, archaeologists found cuneiform tablets, some of the earliest examples of writing ever discovered. These were not epic poems, they were practical records, lists of grain supplies, inventories of temple goods, and records of labor assignments. Writing itself, one of humanity's greatest inventions, seems to have emerged from the need to manage the complex economy of these early temples. How did these first houses of the gods shape the very fabric of civilization? They forged the tools of bureaucracy, concentrated community resources, and inspired the architectural language of power. This ancient foundation, laid in the dust of Uruk, would one day prepare the world for the marble temples of classical Greece. A Greek shepherd in the 19th century, tending his flock near Ioannina, noticed something strange glinting in the soil. He bent down and picked up a small, ancient bronze artifact, a fragment of a world long forgotten. His simple discovery would eventually draw archaeologists to the site of Dodona, the oldest oracle in all of Greece. This sacred place is mentioned by Homer himself in the Iliad, establishing its profound antiquity as a center for the worship of Zeus, with origins stretching back to around 2,000 years before the Common Era. What set Dodona apart from the more famous oracle at Delphi was its unique source of prophecy. Here, the voice of the god was not channeled through a priestess in a trance, but was heard in the natural world itself. Priests known as the Seloi would interpret the divine will from the rustling of the leaves in a sacred grove of oak trees. They also listened to the sound of the wind striking a series of carefully arranged bronze vessels, which would chime and resonate across the sanctuary. As classical scholar Dr. John Boardman has noted, Dodona provides unique insight into early Greek religion before the rise of the Olympian pantheon. Excavations at the site uncovered a magnificent theater, temples, and a treasure trove of thousands of small lead tablets. These tablets were not official records. They were the personal, heartfelt questions asked by ordinary people who traveled great distances to seek the god's counsel. The inscriptions are incredibly intimate. One person asks whether they should invest in a new ship. Another wonders if their wife is being faithful. A general inquires if the gods will grant him victory in an upcoming battle. These small pieces of lead reveal the universal human anxieties about love, money, and survival, all whispered to a god in a sacred grove. The site was in continuous use for over 2,000 years, a testament to the enduring, primal need for divine guidance. How did the sound of wind in the leaves become a message from the heavens? It was a belief that the divine was not distant, but present in every breath of air and every movement of nature. This classical world of oracles and temples would lay the foundation for an empire that took sacred architecture to even more colossal scales. The sound of pickaxes striking earth suddenly gave way to a hollow echo in 1934. Italian laborers digging foundations for a new building in Rome had broken through into a void. Lowering a lamp, they illuminated an underground chamber untouched for 1,600 years. Faded frescoes adorned the walls, and stone benches flanked a central aisle, all leading to a sculpted scene of a figure in a Phrygian cap plunging a dagger into a bull's neck. They had discovered the Mithraeum of the Circus Maximus, a perfectly preserved temple to the secretive god Mithras. This was no public shrine. Mithraism was a mystery religion, a cult of initiation that flourished in the Roman Empire, particularly among the legions. Its rituals were so closely guarded that no written scriptures have ever been found. Everything we know comes from temples like this one, accidentally sealed and forgotten. As archaeologist Dr. Robert Turcan has explained, Mithraic temples were deliberately designed to replicate caves, representing the cosmos itself, the very universe where the god Mithras performed his central act of sacrificing the primordial bull. This iconic scene, the Takht-e, was the focal point of every Mithraeum, but it was far more than a simple depiction of slaughter. Each element was a complex cosmic symbol. The bull represented the chaotic forces of nature and Mithras bringing order to the cosmos. The scorpion, the snake, and the dog shown in the scene were celestial symbols, and the shedding of the bull's blood was believed to generate all life on Earth. The stone benches where initiates would sit were not for casual gathering. They were stages for a rigorous spiritual journey. Members progressed through 7 grades of initiation, each with its own ritual and planetary association, moving from the rank of raven to that of father. The discovery preserved paintings and statues that sunlight and air would have destroyed centuries ago, giving us our clearest window into the clandestine world of a Roman soldier's faith. What secret oaths were sworn in that flickering lamplight? What personal transformations did men seek in this underground universe, far from the crowded temples of the official gods? This hidden chamber of masculine fellowship makes you wonder how many other secret societies conducted their rites in the very bedrock of the empire, their stories still sealed beneath our modern cities. A Taoist monk named Wang Yuanlu was simply clearing sand from a cliff face in China's Gobi Desert in 1900 when his broom struck something hollow. The sound was wrong. He carefully widened the hole, and behind a thin wall of ancient brick, he found a small chamber, dark and silent. His lamp illuminated a sight that would rewrite history. This was the legendary library cave at Dunhuang, a sealed room that had preserved its secrets for 900 years. It was not filled with treasure in the traditional sense, but with something far more precious. Stacked from floor to ceiling were 50,000 manuscripts, silk paintings, and embroidered textiles, a breathtaking time capsule from the glory days of the Silk Road. This single, accidental discovery opened the door to the Mogao Caves, also known as the 1,000 Buddha Grottos. This was not one temple, but a sprawling complex of 492 individual sanctuaries carved directly into the cliff face. The work began in the year 366 of the Common Era, when a wandering monk named Yu Zun had a vision of 1,000 golden lights shimmering on the rock wall, interpreting it as a divine sign to build a shrine here. For the next millennium, monks, merchants, and pilgrims traveling the Silk Road added to this sacred site, creating a continuous artistic record of 1,000 years of Buddhist faith and cultural exchange. As art historian Dr. Roderick Whitfield has observed, Dunhuang represents the most complete repository of Silk Road Buddhist art, showing a vibrant conversation of cultural influences from India all the way to China. Inside the cool, dark caves, the walls are alive with color. Vast murals depict the life of the Buddha, celestial beings known as apsaras playing instruments in the sky, and scenes from everyday life along the trade routes. Alongside these paintings stand thousands of painted clay statues, from serene, towering Buddhas to delicate, life-sized bodhisattvas. The arid desert air acted as a perfect natural preservative, keeping the pigments vibrant and the silk texts from crumbling into dust. But it was the contents of that single library cave that caused the greatest shockwave. It contained texts in a stunning array of languages, including Sanskrit, Tibetan, Uyghur, and even Hebrew. There were Buddhist sutras copied by devout pilgrims, but also mundane contracts, medical treatises, and astronomical charts. This was not a curated collection of holy books. It was a random, complete cross-section of the knowledge that flowed along the Silk Road. How did Buddhism spread and adapt along these vast trade routes? The caves at Dunhuang provide the answer. You can see the Indian Buddha gradually acquiring Chinese features in the statues. You can read prayers translated and transformed for a new audience. This was not a one-way transmission of faith, but a living, breathing exchange of ideas, art, and belief, all preserved by chance in a desert cliff. The silent, painted grottos make you wonder what other libraries of lost knowledge are still sealed away, waiting for a stray breeze or a curious hand to bring them back into the light. A Dutch colonial officer received a strange assignment in 1814. H.C. Cornelius was ordered to investigate local rumors of a colossal stone structure hidden deep in the jungles of central Java. He arrived with a team of 200 men, armed with machetes and sheer determination, and began the grueling work of clearing away a century of tropical overgrowth. As the vines and trees fell, they revealed not just a ruin, but the silhouette of an entire mountain of stone. This was Borobudur, the single largest Buddhist temple on Earth, which had been buried for centuries under layers of volcanic ash and jungle soil. Constructed in the 9th century under the Sailendra dynasty, this staggering monument was abandoned just a few hundred years later as Buddhist kingdoms declined and the region's spiritual focus shifted. The sheer scale of the structure is almost incomprehensible. It is a perfect, massive mandala in stone, featuring 504 statues of the Buddha, 2,672 intricately carved narrative relief panels, and 72 perforated stupas, each one housing a serene stone Buddha within. As archaeologist Dr. John Miksic explains, Borobudur is far more than a building. It is a three-dimensional guide to enlightenment. Pilgrims were meant to walk a spiraling path upwards, moving through three distinct tiers that represent the Buddhist cosmos. The journey begins at the base in the world of desire and ascends through the world of form, finally arriving at the world of formlessness at the summit. The relief panels are not mere decoration. They are a visual scripture telling the life story of the Buddha, his previous incarnations in the Jataka tales, and the profound teachings of the sutras. Every step upward was a lesson, a meditation on the path to nirvana. The temple's location was no accident. Its builders possessed a deep understanding of sacred geography. Borobudur is precisely aligned with nearby mountains and sits in a direct relationship with other contemporary temples, forming a vast, interconnected sacred landscape. This was sophisticated urban and spiritual planning on a grand scale, a testament to a flourishing and devout civilization. How did these Buddhist kingdoms rise to such prominence in the heart of maritime Southeast Asia? Borobudur stands as a silent answer, a monument to a time when this island was a vibrant crossroads of faith, art, and power. This same spirit of monumental creation, born from a different faith, would soon be found etched into the cliffs of a different empire far to the west. French colonial officials mapping the remote border between Cambodia and Thailand in the early 1900s expected to find wilderness, not a masterpiece. Their survey led them up a treacherous cliff face to a temple complex that seemed to defy gravity, perched 1,800 feet above the plains below. This was Preah, a sanctuary dedicated to the Hindu god Shiva that had faded from wider memory, known only to the local communities who revered it. Constructed over 3 centuries by a succession of Khmer kings, its design was a radical departure from the concentric layouts of places like Angkor Wat. Instead, Preah unfolds in a long, linear sequence along the natural ridge of the mountain, a stone processional path guiding pilgrims ever higher. Art historian Dr. Claude Jacques emphasizes that the temple represents Khmer architectural genius perfectly adapted to an extreme topography, forging a sacred landscape that physically connects the earth to the sky. Every step of the ascent is punctuated with ceremonial gateways known as gopuras and grand pavilions. The carved stone pediments above these doorways are pages from a stone book depicting vivid scenes from Hindu mythology, including the cosmic churning of the ocean of milk. But this was more than a spiritual retreat. Its breathtaking vantage point also made it a strategic fortress, controlling the vital trade routes that snaked through the plains far below. The temple's modern history reflects its enduring power. Its designation as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in the 21st century rekindled a long simmering border dispute between Cambodia and Thailand, proving that an ancient temple's significance is never locked in the past. It remains a living symbol of cultural identity and national pride. How does geography shape our houses of worship? Preah answers that the most sacred spaces are often those that merge human devotion with the raw, untamable power of the earth itself. This cliffside sanctuary, built to touch the heavens, finds a curious parallel in a very different kind of mountain refuge, one discovered not by officials, but by a single determined farmer. A French priest traveling through the heart of Turkey in 1907 found himself wandering through a surreal, eroded valley. He was surrounded by strange, towering cones of soft rock that locals called fairy chimneys. As he explored further, he realized these natural formations were not empty. They were facades. He had discovered the rock-hewn churches of Gurim, an entire monastic complex carved directly into the stone, unknown to the Western world. This Cappadocian valley became the Gurim Open Air Museum, a sprawling sanctuary of hundreds of Byzantine-era churches, chapels, and monasteries. Between the 10th and 12th centuries, Christian communities in Anatolia undertook a monumental task. They carved these sacred spaces not from quarried stone, but from the living rock itself, creating a hidden refuge during a period of relentless Arab invasions. The entire landscape became a secret fortress of faith. As Byzantine art historian Dr. Robert Ousterhout explains, the isolation of Cappadocia was its salvation. These churches preserve unique Byzantine fresco cycles that would have been systematically destroyed elsewhere during the periods of iconoclasm. Step inside the dark church, and you are surrounded by a visual symphony. Its walls and ceilings are covered in brilliantly preserved frescoes depicting the life of Christ, the Virgin Mary, and countless saints, their colors still vibrant after 1,000 years, protected by centuries of near-total darkness. The architectural genius is just as profound. Builders did not erect columns or carve domes separately. They sculpted them in place, carefully excavating the soft volcanic tuff to leave behind perfectly formed pillars, arches, and soaring domed ceilings, all integral to the single rock mass. This was not a temporary hideout. It was a thriving, self-sufficient society with refectories, wineries, and dwellings all interconnected by tunnels and staircases, a complete world hollowed out of the earth. The sheer number of churches suggests a large, devout population living, working, and worshipping in this stone honeycomb. How does a community maintain its religious traditions under the constant shadow of threat? The answer is carved into these very walls. They turned their place of hiding into a place of breathtaking beauty, ensuring their faith would not merely survive but flourish in secret. This profound act of carving a civilization from the inside out finds a powerful echo in another part of the ancient world, where an entire city was sculpted not into rock, but directly from a mountainside. A routine aerial survey over a familiar Turkish lake suddenly revealed a ghostly outline shimmering just beneath the surface. In 2014, archaeologists reviewing photographs of Lake Iznik noticed a series of perfect rectangles and half-circles etched into the shallow seabed. They were looking at the sunken remains of a basilica, a 1,500-year-old church that had vanished beneath the waves. This was the Basilica of St. Neophytos, a structure with a history as layered as the sediment that buried it. Built in the 4th century of the Common Era, its foundations were laid on ground of immense historical significance. It stood on the very site where the First Council of Nicaea had convened, a gathering of early Christian bishops that produced the Nicene Creed, a foundational statement of belief for billions of Christians to this day. The church itself was dedicated to Saint Neophytos, a local martyr who was said to have been killed by Roman soldiers in the very same location. As leading underwater archaeologist Dr. Mustafa Shahin explains, the Iznik Basilica is uniquely preserved because of its aquatic tomb. The lack of oxygen in the water prevents the growth of microorganisms that would normally break down organic materials and erode stone, leaving its intricate floor mosaics and architectural features in a state of remarkable clarity. But the story of this land goes even deeper than the Christian church. Excavations revealed that the basilica was constructed directly atop the ruins of a Roman temple dedicated to Apollo, the god of the sun and prophecy. This was not a coincidence. It was a deliberate act of religious succession, a common practice where a new faith builds its sacred spaces over the old, physically and symbolically claiming the land. The basilica's submersion was a gradual process, likely caused by a series of earthquakes that shifted the land and altered the lake's water levels over centuries until the waves finally closed over its roof. What does it mean for a place of worship to serve two gods, one after the other? The stones of this sunken church hold the memory of both Apollo and Christ, a testament to the slow, powerful currents of cultural change. Its discovery also highlights a new era of exploration. We are no longer reliant solely on lucky breaks or the tales of shepherds. This basilica was found through the systematic, eagle-eyed analysis of aerial photography, a technology that allows us to peer through the veil of water and time. It makes you wonder what other foundational layers of our history are hidden in plain sight, just beneath the surfaces of our most familiar landscapes, waiting for the right perspective to bring them into focus. The drill bit brought up more than just sediment from the Gulf of Corinth. In 2001, a Greek team led by Dora Katsonopoulou pulled up a core sample clogged with ancient pottery shards and fragments of building materials. They had found the physical proof for a story told for over 2 millennia. This was the lost city of Hylike, a prominent member of the Achaean League, which in 373 years before the Common Era was completely submerged by the sea in a single, catastrophic night. Ancient writers like the Roman Pausanias recorded the event with awe, describing how a powerful earthquake was followed by a colossal wave that drowned the entire city. The Greeks of the time believed it was the wrath of the god Poseidon, to whom the city was sacred, punishing the inhabitants for denying strangers access to his statue or for some other profound sacrilege. For centuries, the tale of Hylike was considered a dramatic moral fable, a myth explaining the capricious power of the gods. The discovery on the seafloor transformed that myth into a sobering geological case study. Geophysicist Dr. Stephen Soter confirmed that the ancient descriptions were scientifically precise. A major earthquake likely triggered a tsunami that inundated the city, while simultaneously causing a phenomenon known as soil liquefaction. In this process, the solid ground, saturated with water, suddenly loses its strength and behaves like a liquid, causing structures to sink and be swallowed whole. The city did not just flood, it was ingested by the earth and sea. The anaerobic clay that entombed Hylike acted as a perfect preservative, sealing buildings, pottery, and coins in a time capsule of classical Greek life, freezing a single, terrible moment in time. How do natural disasters shape both history and mythology? The story of Hylike provides the answer. A real, traumatic geological event becomes woven into the cultural fabric, explained through the lens of divine intervention. The city's physical destruction was so complete and so sudden that the only way to make sense of it was to attribute it to the fury of a god. Its accidental rediscovery bridges the gap between legend and science, showing us that the seeds of our oldest stories are often planted in real, cataclysmic soil. This sunken Greek city, a testament to the Earth's raw power, sets the stage for another marine discovery, one that would reveal a temple not to a Greek god, but to an entire civilization lost to the waves of the Caribbean. Long before the tsunami's dramatic reveal, a quieter investigation was already underway. In the 1990s, Indian marine archaeologists began a systematic survey of the coastline near Mahabalapuram's famous shore temple. Their sonar equipment sent pulses through the clear water, and the returning signals painted a ghostly outline on their screens. The seafloor was not flat and empty. Distinct geometric shapes lay submerged in the shallow depths, the unmistakable signatures of human construction. They were looking at the physical evidence for a local legend that had persisted for generations, the story of the 7 pagodas. These underwater structures were not isolated ruins. They formed a direct, continuous extension of the temple complex on the shore, proving that the sacred site once reached far out into the ocean. Built during the golden age of the Pallava dynasty in the 7th and 8th centuries, these submerged halls represent the very dawn of Dravidian architecture, a style defined by its intricate pyramid-shaped towers and deeply carved panels. But here, the architects had to consider a new element, the sea itself. The structures show clear adaptations to a maritime environment, with features designed to withstand the constant salt spray and the erosive power of the waves. Marine archaeologist Dr. Alok Tripathi led much of this work, stating that the underwater discoveries prove Mahabalapuram was a major port city with temples extending into the sea, possibly damaged by ancient tsunamis. The sonar maps were later confirmed by divers who swam among the silent ruins. They documented massive stone lions, once standing guard at temple entrances, now lying toppled on the sandy bottom. They found the elegant forms of elephant sculptures, their stone trunks now covered in a gentle fur of marine growth, and the clear, geometric foundations of shrine walls and pavilions, all resting in just 15 to 25 feet of water. This was not a city that slowly sank due to rising sea levels. The evidence points to a sudden, violent catastrophe, perhaps a tsunami not unlike the one in 2004 that struck the coast centuries ago, collapsing these structures and covering them with sand and sediment. The very geography of the coast was changed in a single day. This discovery forces us to look at the world's coastlines with new eyes. If a major religious and commercial center like Mahabalapuram could be partially swallowed by the sea, what other coastal civilizations might have temples beneath the waves? The search for these sunken sacred spaces continues, leading us to another underwater wonder, this one hidden in the fresh water of a great northern lake. The frigid, dark waters of Lake Titicaca held a secret for 1,000 years. In the year 2000, a joint team of Bolivian and Belgian archaeologists lowered their sonar equipment into the world's highest navigable lake, and the scans returned a startling image. 100 feet below the surface lay the distinct geometric outline of a massive temple complex, a site completely unknown to the modern world. This was a ceremonial center built by the Tiwanaku culture, a civilization that flourished between the years 500 and 1000 of the Common Era, long before the rise of the Inca. The scale was staggering. The submerged walls measured 660 feet long by 160 feet wide, encompassing a network of terraces and roads that spoke of a place designed for grand processions and rituals. As lead archaeologist Dr. Christophe Dallaire confirmed, the preservation at this extreme altitude is extraordinary. The cold, oxygen-poor water created a natural time capsule, leaving stone structures, pottery, and even delicate artifacts in a remarkable state of preservation. Their dives recovered tangible proof of the site's spiritual importance. They found exquisite gold artifacts, intricately decorated pottery, and sacred stone boxes known as ilas that contained ancient sacrificial offerings. These discoveries resonate deeply with the Inca creation myths that came centuries later. The Inca believed that the sun god Inti first emerged from the depths of Lake Titicaca, and that the founders of their empire, Manco Capac and Mama Oclo, were born on the nearby Isla del Sol. The Tiwanaku Temple, resting on the same lakebed, suggests these sacred beliefs had roots stretching back a millennium. How did these pre-Columbian cultures view these immense, high-altitude lakes? For them, the water was not a barrier but a portal. These lakes were seen as the origin point of life itself, the primordial sea from which the world was born, making a temple beneath the waves the most sacred ground of all. This Andean spiritual landscape, defined by water and mountain, finds a powerful parallel in the arid deserts of the American Southwest, where a different kind of sacred space was hidden for centuries. The jungle heat gave way to a profound, damp chill as the archaeologists squeezed through a narrow crevice in 1989. Deep within a Belizean cave system, a team searching for ancient pottery fragments instead found themselves standing in a vast, silent chamber. This was Acton Tunishil Muknal, the Cave of the Crystal Sepulchre, a Mayan ceremonial site perfectly frozen in time. For over 1,000 years, from around 700 to 900 of the Common Era, this subterranean space served as a sacred portal, a place where the living could commune with the gods of the underworld, known as Xibalba. The cave's unique environment acted as a perfect preservative, leaving everything exactly as the last priest had left it. Ceramic vessels, some still bearing the residue of offerings, sat alongside stone tools and ritual blades. But the most arresting sight was the skeletal remains. Scattered across the cavern floor, the bones of multiple individuals shimmered under the beam of a headlamp, their surfaces transformed by a thick, glittering coat of calcite crystals deposited by mineral-rich water dripping from the cave ceiling for centuries. The most famous of these is known as the Crystal Maiden, the complete skeleton of a young woman, possibly in her late teens, whose bones now sparkle with an ethereal, otherworldly light. Her posture suggests she was a sacrificial offering, left in this sacred space to appease the deities of the world below. As leading anthropologist Dr. James Orr explains, this cave provides unprecedented insight into Mayan cave rituals, revealing how they viewed these underground chambers as direct portals to the underworld. The pottery tells its own grim story. Many of the vessels show distinct spiked marks on their interiors, evidence of a practice called bloodletting. Mayan royalty and priests would pierce their own tongues, ears, or genitals, collecting their blood on paper which was then burned in these bowls. The rising smoke was believed to carry their life force to the gods, a necessary sacrifice to maintain the cosmic order and ensure the sun would rise again. Every artifact in this cave, from the simplest stone metate for grinding corn to the crystallized skeleton of a young girl, speaks of a profound and deeply held belief that the fate of the world above was decided in the terrifying darkness below. Why would a civilization choose such a fearsome place for its most sacred ceremonies? For the Maya, the cave was not a place of death, but of power. It was the mouth of the earth itself, the most direct line to the forces that controlled rain, corn, and life. The perfect preservation of Acton Tunishil Muknal forces us to confront the visceral reality of their faith, a faith that required the ultimate offerings to sustain the universe. This journey into the Mayan underworld leads us to another civilization that also sought the divine deep within the earth, but in a very different part of the globe. The sound of a workman's pickaxe striking limestone in 1902 did not echo in an empty chamber. It was swallowed by a vast subterranean silence. On the island of Malta, laborers digging a cistern for a new housing development broke through into a void, uncovering the entrance to a world lost for 6,000 years. This was the Hal Saflieni Hypogeum, the only known prehistoric underground temple on Earth, a labyrinthine complex carved entirely by hand from the living rock. Its creation began around 4,000 years before the Common Era, a project that spanned many centuries and delved 3 stories deep into the ground. The Hypogeum was far more than a burial site. It was a multi-level replica of the above-ground temples built by the same mysterious culture, complete with carved pillars, arched ceilings, and chambers that mirrored the sacred architecture of the surface world. At its heart lies the famous Oracle Room, a small, circular chamber with a haunting acoustic property. A deep voice spoken into a specific niche resonates through the entire underground structure, amplified and distorted into a powerful, otherworldly rumble that seems to emanate from the stone itself. As archaeologist David Trump emphasizes, the Hypogeum's sophisticated architecture shows Neolithic people had advanced knowledge of engineering and acoustics 6,000 years ago. The walls were once adorned with red ochre paintings of spirals and geometric patterns, sacred symbols that connected this underworld to the cosmos, but the scale of its use is perhaps the most staggering aspect. The remains of an estimated 7,000 individuals were found within its chambers, suggesting this was a central, collective tomb for generations of a forgotten people. How did a Stone Age culture without metal tools organize itself to undertake such a colossal excavation? How did they possess the acoustic understanding to engineer a chamber that could produce what would have sounded like the voice of a god? The Hypogeum offers no written records, only the silent, echoing testimony of its carved halls. It stands as a profound Neolithic mystery, a testament to the universal human drive to create sacred spaces, whether reaching for the sky or delving deep into the earth. This act of carving a temple from the inside out finds a remarkable parallel in a very different desert landscape, where an entire city was sculpted not into soft limestone, but directly from the face of a rose-red cliff. French archaeologists in the 1930s pushed through the Cambodian jungle, following whispers from local villagers about stones that were alive. They found Samba Preah Kuk, a sprawling pre-Angkorian capital where nature and architecture were locked in a slow, silent struggle. Strangler figs sent their roots like stone veins down brick walls, both consuming and holding the ancient structures upright. This was the heart of the Chenla kingdom, flourishing between the 6th and 7th centuries, long before the rise of Angkor. As art historian Dr. Hiram Woodward explains, Samba Preah Kuk captures a pivotal moment, showing the transition from Indian-inspired temples to a distinctively Khmer architecture that would one day culminate at Angkor. The temples here are not the massive sandstone complexes of a later era. They are built of brick with elegant octagonal towers that reach for the sky, their surfaces adorned with elaborate carvings on the lintels above doorways. These carvings are a visual dictionary of early Khmer art, depicting Hindu deities like Vishnu and Shiva with a graceful, nascent style. The site's profound isolation became its greatest protector. While the temples of Angkor were worn down by centuries of exposure and visitors, the remote jungle of Samba Preah Kuk preserved delicate original stucco decorations and inscriptions carved directly into the temple pillars. These Sanskrit texts are priceless, offering direct testimony to the courtly rituals, religious beliefs, and social structure of this foundational culture. How did early Southeast Asian kingdoms adapt the grand religious architecture they encountered from India? The answer is written in the brick and stone of this complex. They did not simply copy foreign designs. They absorbed the spiritual concepts and then reinterpreted them, using local materials and evolving a new artistic language that was uniquely their own, setting the stage for an architectural revolution. This early kingdom, experimenting with the very form of a temple mountain, laid the essential groundwork for the colossal achievements to come. A German archaeologist followed the whispers of local legends into the high plains of northwestern Iran in 1937, drawn to a place known only as the Throne of Solomon. What he uncovered was a sanctuary lost to the Western world for over 1,000 years, a place of fire and water that had once been the spiritual heart of an empire. This was Takht-e Solomon, the most important Zoroastrian fire temple of the Sasanian dynasty, flourishing from the 5th to the 7th centuries. The entire complex was built on a massive, man-made platform encircling a breathtaking natural wonder, a deep, perfectly round lake that filled the crater of an extinct volcano. This was no ordinary body of water. For the Sasanian kings, this lake was a direct link to the divine, the sacred source for the most revered fire in their empire. At the heart of the temple complex burned the Adur Gushnasp, one of the 3 great royal fires of Zoroastrianism. This was not just a ritual flame, it was a symbol of imperial authority, believed to be invested with the divine right of kings. Before a Sasanian ruler could claim the throne, he was expected to make a pilgrimage to this remote mountain sanctuary to receive the blessing of the eternal fire. As archaeologist Dr. Dietrich Huff has emphasized, Takht-e Solomon's strategic location and its natural wonders were inseparable from its power, making it the undisputed spiritual center of the Sasanian Empire. The engineering required to build a monumental complex at this altitude was staggering. Massive fortification walls, some 16 feet thick, were erected to protect the sacred precinct. Sophisticated water channels were carved to manage the flow from mineral springs, channeling the water to feed the crater lake and supply the temples and royal reception halls. The entire site was a masterpiece of sacred geography, blending the raw power of the earth with the ambitious architecture of man. But the story of this place did not end with the fall of the Sasanians. The site's profound spiritual aura ensured its survival. Later, Islamic rulers recognized its power and built their own structures within the ancient walls, including a mosque and a palace. A Zoroastrian fire temple had seamlessly transitioned into an Islamic place of learning and governance. How does a sacred site successfully transition between religions? Takht-e Solomon provides a powerful answer. It demonstrates that the holiness of a place is not always tied to a single god or a single story. Sometimes the location itself, the sheer presence of a natural wonder like a volcanic lake, is so potent that it transcends faiths, inviting each new generation to find its own meaning within the same ancient stones. This Persian sanctuary, a place where fire and water met under the open sky, prepares us for one last miraculous discovery, a temple that brings our journey full circle. A single woodcutter's path through the dense Belizean rainforest in 1937 led to a discovery that would rewrite the history of an entire civilization. While searching for valuable mahogany trees, this local man found his way blocked by something far more permanent: immense stone pyramids pushing through the thick jungle canopy. He had stumbled upon Karakol, a Mayan metropolis so vast and powerful it had been lost to human memory for over 1,000 years. This was not a minor outpost. At its zenith around the year 650, Karakol sprawled across an astonishing 200 square kilometers, a bustling urban center that famously challenged and defeated its great rival, Tikal, in a protracted war. This victory was not just a whispered legend. It was proudly carved into the city's own stone monuments, stelae that recorded the deeds of its kings for all eternity. Leading archaeologist Dr. Arlen Chase has spent decades unraveling the city's secrets, pointing to its extensive agricultural terracing and complex road system as evidence of a highly organized society capable of supporting a population that may have exceeded 100,000 people. They did not merely farm the land, they engineered it, creating a sustainable landscape to feed a thriving urban population. At the heart of this lost city stands the Khana, or Sky Palace, a breathtaking pyramid temple complex that still holds the title of the tallest man-made structure in all of Belize, soaring 140 feet above the forest floor. This was more than a temple, it was a royal acropolis, a single massive structure containing royal palaces, administrative rooms, and sacred shrines all stacked upon one another, a literal mountain of power. Within its depths, tombs have yielded exquisite offerings of jade, spiny oyster shell, and intricately painted ceramics, possessions of a ruling class that commanded respect and resources from a vast network of surrounding communities. The story of Karakol brings our journey full circle, from a single naturalist in Cambodia to a lone woodcutter in Belize. How did these great Mayan city-states interact, weaving together a tapestry of warfare and alliance across centuries? The stones of Karakol answer that they were dynamic, competitive, and brilliantly organized, their sacred spaces serving as the very engines of their political and spiritual power. Each of these 24 temples, from the sunken basilicas to the cloud-high sanctuaries, shares a single, humbling truth. They were all found not by grand design, but by a fortunate accident, a reminder that our world still holds profound mysteries, waiting just beyond the next bend in the path for someone to look in the right place at the right time. The methods of discovery are as varied as the temples themselves. While we have journeyed through 24 miraculous finds, their recovery points to a larger story unfolding in the science of archaeology today. Modern technology now gives us a god's-eye view of the past. LiDAR, which stands for light detection and ranging, fires millions of laser pulses from an aircraft down through the jungle canopy, digitally stripping away the vegetation to reveal the ghostly footprints of ancient cities beneath. Satellite imagery scans the Earth in countless spectral bands, detecting subtle differences in soil moisture and plant growth that betray the presence of buried walls. Ground-penetrating radar sends pulses into the Earth, painting a sonogram of hidden chambers and foundations. These are the systematic tools of a new era of exploration. Yet for all this technological power, pure chance remains one of the field's most productive forces. As space archaeologist Dr. Sarah Parkak observes, for every intentional archaeological discovery, there are several accidental ones that reshape our understanding of the past. A farmer's plow strikes a buried mosaic. A construction crew digging a subway tunnel breaks into a sealed catacomb. A drought lowering a reservoir's water level exposes a forgotten stone circle. These are not exceptions to the rule. They are the rule. They remind us that our modern world is built in a thin layer atop a deep foundation of history, and that foundation is constantly pushing through. Now, new global forces are accelerating these chance encounters. Climate change is a powerful, if unsettling, agent of revelation. As glaciers and permanent ice fields melt, they are releasing artifacts and even entire structures that have been frozen in time for millennia. Rising sea levels and intensifying storms are eroding coastlines, scouring away sand and soil to reveal sunken settlements. Meanwhile, relentless urban expansion means that every new foundation dug, every pipeline laid, has the potential to intersect with an ancient wall or a ritual deposit. What future accidents are waiting to happen? A sinkhole in a busy city could open into a lost Mithraeum. A landslide on a remote mountainside might expose a monastic cell. The next great temple discovery might not be made by a team with a research grant, but by a child chasing a ball into a thicket or a dog digging a hole in the backyard. The science of discovery tells us that our map of the past is still being drawn, and that the most profound truths often emerge not from a focused search, but from a fortunate glance in an unexpected direction. Our journey through 24 temples reveals a profound and universal truth. Across continents and millennia, from the humid jungles of Cambodia to the high deserts of Peru, humanity has demonstrated an unshakable drive to build spaces for the sacred. We see it in the celestial alignment of Machu Picchu's stone pillars and the cosmic symbolism carved into Rome's underground Mithraeum. These structures are far more than piles of stone. They are crystallized belief representing our ancestors' deepest questions about the cosmos, their place within it, and their relationship with the divine. Each temple is a unique expression of this spiritual impulse, showcasing a breathtaking diversity of architectural genius and cosmological understanding. The Khmer vision of a stone Mount Meru at Angkor Wat, the Nabatean mastery of desert hydraulics at Petra, and the Neolithic acoustic engineering within Malta's Hypogeum all speak to cultures reaching for the heavens with the tools and knowledge they possessed. Their rediscovery, almost without exception, was not the result of a calculated search. History has a stubborn habit of revealing itself through serendipity. A tsunami pulls back the ocean to confirm an ancient legend. A farmer's plow strikes a mosaic. A boy chasing a goat stumbles upon the Dead Sea Scrolls. These chance encounters, born from natural disaster, routine construction, or the simple curiosity of an explorer, have given us back entire chapters of the human story. Every temple tells two intertwined stories. The first is of its original builders, their faith, their kings, and their daily lives. The second is of its rediscoverer, the moment of stunned realization when a lost world suddenly re-emerges into the light. In that instant, a Portuguese priest gazing at the rock-hewn churches of Lalibela, or a gum collector staring up at the pyramids of Tikal, becomes part of the temple's ongoing narrative.